The Toad Sues the Heavens. Once upon a time, so long ago that no one remembers the exact year, there came a devastating drought sent by the heavens. The scorching heat stretched from month to month, burning forests and grasslands. Rivers and ponds dried up. The earth seemed to be on fire. All living creatures were plunged into despair. Not a single drop of water remained. The strong and mighty beasts, once kings of the wild, could do nothing but lie down, panting with their tongues out, waiting for death. They who used to bully one another now had no idea how to save even themselves, let alone others. Amidst this hopelessness, a small and ugly creature, a crimson toad, dared to have a bold idea: to climb to heaven itself and sue the sky to demand rain and save life. No one believed he could do it. But the toad didn't care. He didn't need brute strength. He had courage and cleverness, and he believed if he didn't do it, no one would. Thus began the journey to sue the sky, a journey led by a tiny toad with a heart full of determination. Alone on a cracked, dry road, the crimson toad hopped past empty ponds and cracked mud. In a dried-out pit, he found Crab, gasping for air, his claws drooping weakly from exhaustion. "Brother Crab, come with me to heaven and sue the sky. We must ask for rain to save all creatures," said the toad. Crab hesitated. "All the way to the sky? To sue? That's impossible." But just then, a group of nearby animals started arguing over his words. Crab, annoyed, because arguing was his specialty, got upset. How dare they out-argue me? And so, Crab agreed to join, determined to argue all the way. They moved on. A while later, they came across Tiger lying belly up under a leafless tree, barely breathing. Nearby, Bear was sprawled out, sweating heavily, tongue hanging in thirst. Toad invited, "Will you keep lying here waiting to die, or join me to demand rain from the sky?" Tiger hesitated, but Bear clapped loudly. "Exactly! Even Crab is going. Why shouldn't we? We can't stand this thirst any longer." So Bear and Tiger joined the team. The group wasn't done growing yet. As they passed a scorched bush, they found Fox, his fur singed and burnt, groaning from the heat. Not far away, a swarm of bees lay limp from dehydration. Hearing Toad's plan, both Fox and the bees sprang up. "Let's go! We've got nothing left to lose." From a lone toad, now there was a brave army, odd-shaped, flawed, but united by one goal: to reclaim life from the heavens. After a long journey through parched forests and windswept dust, Toad's army finally reached the gates of heaven, the grandest place of all, where few dared to lift their eyes. Before the towering silver gates, Tiger, Bear, Fox, Crab, and the bees all froze. Fear filled their eyes. But Toad stayed calm. His voice rang out like a command. "Follow the plan I made. If each of us plays our part, we can defeat even the sky." Toad gave orders. Crab was to hide in the water jar by Heaven's Gate. Fox hid on Toad's left. Bear lay on his right. Tiger crouched behind him. The bees clung to the heavenly gate, ready to strike. Once in position, Toad boldly jumped onto Heaven's drum and, with his small yet determined hands, beat 3 thunderous strikes, echoing across the sky. Boom! Boom, boom! Up in heaven, the Jade Emperor jumped. He immediately ordered Thunder God to check who dared cause such a ruckus. Thunder God looked down and saw just a tiny, ugly toad sitting on the sacred drum. Furious, the Emperor ordered Sky Chicken to fly down and peck him to death. But the toad ground his teeth. The signal! Instantly, Fox pounced from the left and dragged Sky Chicken away. The Emperor sent Sky Dog next to handle Fox. As soon as Sky Dog charged, Toad ground his teeth again. Bear rushed forward and struck Sky Dog with a mighty blow. Sky Dog dropped, dead on the spot. Now enraged, the Jade Emperor roared, "Thunder God! Bring your lightning hammer and destroy this rabble!" Thunder God, fierce and mighty, stormed forward, thunderhammer in hand. But just then, the bees, on signal, swarmed down and stung his relentlessly, burning with pain. Thunder God dropped his hammer and dove into the water jar to escape the bees. But Crab was waiting. He snapped his claws and clamped onto Thunder God's neck. Thunder God howled and smashed the jar, trying to escape. But before he could get away, Tiger leaped from behind Toad, roaring so loud the heavens shook and tore Thunder God in two. Heaven itself was in chaos. Heaven trembled in fear. The Jade Emperor from his golden throne in the clouds was no longer angry, but worried. A single toad, yet he led an army that overpowered heavenly warriors? If all creatures on earth became this bold, heaven's peace might not last. Softening his tone, the emperor summoned Toad to the palace. "You came and stirred all of heaven. Why?" he asked. Toad stepped forward calmly. Though small, his voice thundered. "Your Majesty, it's been 4 years without rain. Plants are dying, creatures thirsting. Life is fading day by day. I couldn't sit and watch the world perish, so I beat the drum and came to sue the sky, asking you to bring rain and save us." The emperor fell silent. Never had he imagined that a toad, so often mocked as ugly and crude, would carry such heart and courage to stand before the heavens. He nodded and smiled. "I understand. Go back in peace. I will send rain at once." Then he added, "Next time there's no need to come all the way here. Just grind your teeth. I'll hear it, and the rains will fall." Toad left heaven, leading the group home. As their feet touched the ground, thunder rumbled above, and the first raindrops fell. Rain poured down over fields and forests. Streams filled again, trees turned green, creatures danced in the joy of life renewed. From that day on, whenever people hear the sound of a toad grinding its teeth, rain begins to fall. And the old folk saying still lives on. The toad is heaven's uncle. Strike him, and the sky will strike back. The magic paintbrush. Once upon a time, in a small and poor village, there lived a boy named Maliang. He had been orphaned from a young age and had to survive by gathering firewood in the forest. Despite the hardships of life, a burning passion for painting always lived inside Maliang. He loved to draw, but because he was so poor, he didn't even own a paintbrush, let alone paper or colors. Every time he had the chance, he would find ways to draw. Using dry twigs to sketch in the dirt, rolling grass into brushes to dip in water and paint on rocks, or using charcoal to draw on the walls of his house. Though his drawings were simple, they held a strange vitality. Landscapes and animals seemed almost alive. One day, while carrying firewood to sell, Maliang passed by the house of a high-ranking official. He saw a painter at work and, filled with admiration, boldly asked for a paintbrush. But instead of feeling sympathy, the official and the painter mocked him for being poor yet daring to dream. Angrily, Maliang replied, "Is it wrong to want to learn to draw? Just because I'm poor, does that mean I don't have the right to learn?" That one sentence revealed the strength and determination of the poor boy who wished to rise above his fate. Despite the scorn, Maliang never gave up on his dream of becoming an artist. Day by day, he trained persistently in every way he could. Though looked down upon and ridiculed, Maliang did not lose heart. On the contrary, he became even more determined. Each day while collecting wood or cutting grass, he practiced drawing using whatever he could find: branches, drops of water, even kitchen charcoal. His drawings gradually became so lifelike that people were amazed. Birds seemed to sing, fish looked like they were swimming, and wolves appeared so real that livestock were too frightened to venture near the hills. One villager asked him, "Are you learning to paint so you can work for the rich and earn money someday?" But Maliang firmly shook his head. "I don't paint to serve the rich. I only want to use my art to help the poor." Though his skills had improved greatly, the dream of owning a real brush to paint with ink still seemed far beyond his reach. Then one night, something magical happened. As he slept, a strange radiant light filled his small house. From the glow emerged an old man with long white hair and beard, holding a glittering paintbrush. The old man handed the brush to Maliang and said, "This is a magic paintbrush. It will bring miracles. Whatever you paint with it will become real. But remember your promise. Only use this brush to help those who are poor and in need." With that, the old man vanished in a burst of light. Maliang woke up, thinking it had all been a dream. But when he looked at his hand, he was stunned. The magic brush was real. Overjoyed, he tested it by painting a bird, and amazingly, the bird flew off the page, singing loudly. When he painted a fish, it swam around joyfully. Maliang exclaimed, "It really is a magic brush." From that day on, Maliang's beautiful dream gained wings. He painted tirelessly to help the poor people around him. If a household lacked a buffalo, he painted one. If they needed a plow, he painted it. If they had no fields, he painted farmland for them. Everything Maliang created with his magic brush became real, giving the villagers the means to live and work with dignity. One day, he passed by a field where he saw a frail old farmer straining to pull a plow in place of an ox. Moved by compassion, Maliang quickly painted a strong, healthy buffalo. The animal immediately appeared and began plowing the field for the farmer. Word of the boy who could paint things into existence spread quickly throughout the region. A greedy district official heard the rumors and ordered his soldiers to capture Maliang and bring him to his mansion, demanding that he paint gold, silver, and treasures for him. Despite threats, Maliang stood firm. "Even if you kill me, I will never paint for you." Furious, the official locked him in a dark prison, depriving him of food and water, hoping to force him into submission. But in that cold cell, Maliang painted a fire to keep warm and food to eat. The official, thinking Maliang had surely died, came to inspect and was shocked to find the boy alive and well. Enraged, he ordered the guards to break into the cell and seize the magic brush. But when they opened the door, Maliang had vanished. All that remained was a ladder leaning against the wall, one that he had painted. He had used the brush to draw a ladder and a horse, escaping from prison and galloping far away. Though the soldiers chased him relentlessly, they could never catch him. Having escaped the greedy official, Maliang fled his homeland and journeyed to a faraway land to avoid further trouble. There, he lived quietly, painting for hire. But afraid that the magic brush could cause harm if discovered, he purposely made incomplete drawings, birds without eyes, animals without legs, so they wouldn't come to life. Yet fate had another surprise in store. One day, while painting a white stork, a drop of ink accidentally landed on its eye. Instantly, the bird flapped its wings and flew off the page, astonishing everyone who saw it. News of the artist whose drawings came to life spread once again, eventually reaching the emperor's ears. The emperor was a cruel, greedy man. Upon hearing the story, he immediately ordered Maliang to be brought to the palace. There, he demanded the boy paint whatever he wished: flying dragons, phoenixes, golden mountains, and jade trees. But Maliang, knowing the emperor's greedy and cruel heart, refused to obey. When told to draw a dragon, he painted a lizard. Asked for a phoenix, he drew a crow. As soon as the creatures came to life, they began to fight each other loudly, enraging the emperor. Unable to tolerate such defiance, the emperor grabbed the brush and tried to paint a golden mountain for himself. But instead of gold, a massive pile of stones came crashing down, nearly killing him. Realizing only Maliang could control the brush, the emperor changed his approach. He pretended to be kind and gentle, trying to coax the boy into painting for him. Wanting to reclaim the brush, Maliang pretended to agree and laid out a final plan. After pretending to go along with the emperor, Maliang began executing his clever plan. The emperor asked for a magical tree that could grow coins. Maliang painted a vast ocean with a small island in the middle. On the island, he drew a lush tree from which golden coins fell like ripe fruit. The emperor was overjoyed and ordered Maliang to paint a large ship so he and his officials could sail to the island to collect gold. Maliang obediently painted exactly what was requested. As soon as the ship appeared, the greedy emperor and his ministers rushed aboard without delay. Maliang added a soft breeze to help the ship sail quickly. Once it had traveled far from land, so far that the shore could no longer be seen, Maliang raised his brush again and painted towering waves in a stormy sky. The wind howled, the waves surged, and the ship tossed violently in the raging sea. In an instant, the ship capsized, dragging the emperor and his greedy court deep into the ocean, never to return. When the people heard what had happened, they rejoiced. The cruel tyrants had received their well-deserved punishment. From then on, Maliang returned to his humble life, using the magic brush, not to serve the rich or powerful, but to help the poor and those truly in need of his heart and talent. And thus, the story of the magic paintbrush is not only about a wondrous talent, but also celebrates a pure, courageous, and determined spirit, one that always stands for justice and the poor. The Legend of the Watermelon. Long ago, during the reign of the 17th Hung King, our country was still wild and undeveloped. Towering mountains stood tall, vast rivers flowed endlessly, and golden sunlight bathed the skies. Yet the fields were sparse, and fruit trees were few, especially sweet and delicious fruits like those we have today. At that time in the royal court, there was a young man named Mai Antiem, an adopted son greatly cherished by the king. Antiem was not only intelligent and resourceful, but also wise and remarkably capable. The Hung King often bestowed rare and valuable gifts upon Antiem. While the other courtiers gratefully received the king's offerings with praise and flattery, Antiem paid little mind to such material wealth. He often said, "Gifts are worries, offerings are debts," and treated them lightly. Unfortunately, his words reached the king's ears. Upon hearing them, the king became furious, believing Antiem to be arrogant and ungrateful. In his anger, the king declared, "If that's how he feels, let him survive by his own efforts. We shall see if he can endure it." Early the next morning, before the sun had risen, royal guards suddenly arrived and escorted Antiem, his wife, and their children onto a boat. They were not allowed to bring any belongings or supplies, only a dull sword for protection. Without explanation, the boat set sail, cutting through the waves and heading straight into the open sea. The vast ocean stretched out endlessly, and the white sands and green trees along the shore gradually disappeared from view. From that point on, all traces of life vanished. There was nothing but the blue sea and sky merging at the horizon. Lady Ba, Antiem's wife, held her child tightly as tears streamed down her face like rain. After drifting on the ocean for a day, the boat finally reached a small, desolate island. There were no signs of human life. The guards left them there with 5 days' worth of food and a cooking pot before sailing away, abandoning the family on the cold, remote shore. Watching the ship fade into the distance, Lady Ba could only hold her child and weep. No longer could she sit beneath the moonlight chatting with neighbors, or share the season's first corn cobs with friends. Now there was only the sea breeze, burning sand, and the haunting fear of an uncertain future. Yet even in the face of such adversity, Antiem remained calm. He led his wife and children deeper into the island and found a cave to use as temporary shelter, and thus began their difficult life in the wilderness. Those early days were incredibly hard. The island was covered in wild grass, rocks, a few stunted bushes, and the occasional seabird. There was no rice, no fruit. Antiem had to lead his family to forage for wild vegetables and sour fruits to survive. Every day, Antiem used his bare hands and the dull sword to dig and plant green vegetables. Lady Ba searched the seashore for clams and mussels. Their eldest son imitated his father, setting traps for birds, but the birds eventually learned to avoid them. Though fish were plentiful, they had no nets, making fishing extremely difficult. The family barely scraped by on wild greens and shellfish, simple foods provided by nature. Their lives were like that of the animals, sometimes full, sometimes hungry. Yet Antiem never once complained. He firmly believed that with hard work and patience, they could one day change their fate. Even in poverty, the family remained united in love and support for one another. Beneath a simple rocky shelter on the remote island, their small home glowed warmly with faith, effort, and an unyielding spirit. One morning, while walking along the beach looking for food, Antiem saw a flock of crows gathered around something on the sand. As soon as they spotted him, they flew away, leaving behind a partially pecked piece of deep red fruit. Antiem picked it up curiously. It was bright red, cool to the touch, and lightly fragrant. He tasted it and found it sweet and refreshing. It eased his hunger and quenched his thirst. Thinking, if birds can eat it, surely humans can too. He ate the whole piece. Afterward, he carefully saved the shiny black seeds inside, wrapped them up, and brought them home. Then he used his dull sword to dig a small plot of land behind their shelter and planted the seeds, harboring a faint hope. Every day, the whole family took turns watering and tending to the patch, hoping for a miracle. Soon, from the earth sprouted green vines that crept across the patch of land. The family rejoiced and worked even harder, pulling weeds, catching pests, and caring for the vines. Yellow flowers bloomed, then turned to fruit, first the size of a finger, then growing to the size of a mouse, then a piglet. The watermelons kept growing, plump and round under the island's sun. Yet Antiem didn't dare harvest them too soon. One morning, hearing a racket of crows cawing on the beach, Lady Ba told him to investigate. He rushed out and saw that one large melon had been pecked open. He brought it home and sliced it open. Inside, the fruit was a brilliant red, speckled with jet black seeds, and encased in a thick white rind with a fresh green edge. The children drooled with anticipation, and Lady Ba admired its beauty and scent. Antiem carefully cut small pieces for everyone to taste. They all praised its sweetness, coolness, and how it quenched thirst and energized them. That day, Antiem boldly cut open the whole melon and let his children eat their fill. A glimmer of hope had been lit in their hearts. This strange new fruit could be the key to changing their lives on this desolate island. From that day on, the Antiem family poured all their strength into cultivating the precious melon vines. Though they only had a dull sword and a few sharpening stones, each plant represented countless drops of sweat and labor. Thanks to their devotion and persistence, the melons multiplied, growing bigger, sweeter, and more abundant each season. At every harvest, Antiem selected the best fruits, carved a mark on them, and set them afloat on the sea. He quietly hoped, maybe someone out there will find these melons and learn of their origin. Again and again, the fruits drifted away, new moon to full moon, season after season, but Antiem never gave up. He kept planting and releasing melons into the waves. Then one day, a merchant ship from the mainland arrived at the island. The traders had found the melons and were amazed by their sweetness and long shelf life. When they learned that Antiem was the one who grew them, they offered to trade food and tools in exchange for the fruit, intending to sell it on the mainland. From then on, Antiem's family was able to trade for daily necessities, clothing, and even build a cozy thatched hut by the shore. Meanwhile, in the capital, the Hung King was once served a new kind of fruit, red inside and sweetly refreshing. Impressed, he inquired about its origin and was astonished to learn that it came from Antiem, the very man he had once banished. Realizing his mistake, the king felt remorse and immediately sent a ship to bring Antiem's family back. Antiem and Lady Ba were deeply moved. Upon returning to the mainland, they brought watermelon seeds with them, distributed them to villagers, and taught them how to grow and care for the crop. From then on, this sweet and refreshing fruit spread across the country, becoming a beloved part of Vietnamese life. People say that the district of Ninh Son, once a remote island, still grows the most delicious watermelons to this day. It was Antiem's spirit of independence, perseverance, and unwavering belief in himself that helped him survive hardship, tame wild land, and create a fruitful legacy, both literally and symbolically. This tale serves as a timeless reminder that nothing is more precious than self-reliance and honest labor. Those who are sincere and hardworking will always be rewarded. Even today, every time Vietnamese people enjoy a slice of juicy watermelon, they remember My Antiem, the man who planted not just the seeds of fruit, but also of determination, self-reliance, and integrity in the heart of their homeland.